Hey, shalom. Here we are. Hope you guys can hear me okay. Happy Hanukkah to everyone. We are on the fourth night over here in the Philippines. Over in the Western Hemisphere, you guys are still in the third day. So tonight we're going to start with Exodus, Perek, that's chapter Gimel 3. Wow, we're in chapter 3 already. Can you believe it? We're making some progress with our language lab. Christopher says, I've yet to try Hanukkah food, like latkes. Oh, yeah, I didn't have latkes this year either, yeah. Yeah. Latkes are pretty good. It's kind of like, for those of you who are wondering, it's like a potato pancake kind of thing, you know. But you put applesauce on it. It's really nice with applesauce. Kind of a more common Hanukkah food that crosses the boundaries. Latkes are Ashkenazi food, right? Like, so German Jewish food. The ones that is an Israeli Hanukkah food or sugiyot, they're like, it's like these donuts that are boiled in oil. The idea is the oil reminds you of the Chanukiah and the lamp and that it lasts and everything. So shout out, Shalom, Brenda, Vicky, Christopher, anybody else who is in the room who's not writing. So I see we've got more viewers, but you're not all in the room. That's okay. If you want to chat with us in the live chat, you need to log into your Gmail account. Gmail is free. You can get one for free. And or you might be able to do a YouTube account without having a Gmail. I'm not sure. And then you can participate in the chat. You can do thumbs up, all that kind of stuff with us. So, yeah. All right. So let's just say real quick prayer. Todah lecha Adonai ki anachnu yodeim et lashon hakodesh. כן יהי רצון כי הלילה הזאת תשלח נא את רוח הקודש שלך עלינו, כי אנחנו יכולים ללמוד טוב בעיניך. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות ישוע המשיח. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Here we go. Hope you can hear me okay. Let me know. I've got a different fan down here today where I've got a little adjuster hooked on it so I can adjust the speed so it's lower. So hopefully that'll not interfere with anything that we're doing. I noticed that the green screen isn't moving as much, so that's a plus. Sometimes you see ripples or whatever. We're having effect issues. All right, so let's take a look here. Is it big enough on the screen for those of you on cell phones? Cell phone users, is it big enough on the screen? Please give me some feedback if you're on a cellular phone. All right. Maybe I will try to get a bit closer to the words there. Make it a bit bigger. Bigger is always better when it comes to reading Hebrew. With all the little dots and everything, right? All right. Chapter 3, verse 1. Umoshe haya roeh. Okay. That this should be your familiar vav. It means and. And the reason it became an is because it comes before mem. Whenever you put a vav in front of a mem, if the vav is the conjunction, meaning like and, then, when, so something like this, then we're going to translate that, then we're going to change it to an right? And without getting too technical, the rule is basically, if it's a letter that you make with your lips, like b, like b, or v, f, or p, or m, like mem, then vav in front of it usually changes into an all right? So it's the same letter, it's just being pronounced as an instead of a v. Because in ancient days, it used to be a W sound, right? So if you think about what you do with your lips when you make a W sound, w, your lips are involved, right? And now do right? It can also make an O sound, O. This is kind of a simple way to disprove the silly claims of Nehemiah Gordon that it actually was a vav sound, a V in ancient days. We know, scholars know it was a W, right? Nobody doubts that it was a W except for Nehemiah Gordon, who's doubling down on saying that God's name has a V in it. It just absolutely does not. So everybody knows, all the scholars, the Christians and the Jews, except Nehemiah Gordon, says it was a V sound in God's name. It was not. It was a W. Right? This used to be a W when it was a consonant. So, Moshe, and Moshe, or now Moshe, haya. So haya, many of you should remember this, if nothing else, from certain praise and worship songs, right? Like, the Kadosh song, right? And it says, asher haya vehove veyiye. Right, so the haya, that means was. He was, all right? So umoshe, now Moshe, haya was, sorry, my twisty tie's not working so great. Roeh. Well, let me bear with me just for a second. I'm going to grab the stylus for my tablet. It's just worth getting. All right, and we're back. Thanks for your patience there. Up, no. There. Better. All right. So we can say, so umoshe, now Moshe haya was a roeh. Roeh is a shepherd, a shepherd. And in modern Hebrew, this can mean a pastor, like a pastor of a congregation or something, right? Roeh, just like we say it's kind of poetic, right, to say that someone is a shepherd, right, meaning that they're over a congregation. What did he pastor? What was he pastor of? We don't translate, tson, flock of, oh, sorry, my arm doesn't reach that far. The flock of Yithro. So today we read it like Yithro, but in ancient times, when you had a tav without a dot, that was a th. So I like to make names the way they were. So that's why I don't call Eve Chava, I call her Chawa, right? Because the vav, the ancient vav, like we're just explaining, was a w originally, right? Only in names. For the rest of it will be like Kalal Yisrael, we'll read like in Israel. So this would have been Yithro, right? Hotenoach. So a hoten is a father-in-law. Father-in-law. Now it's interesting. Usually it's assumed that this was Reuel, the priest, right? The same guy, the priest of Midian, right? Reuel. Actually, we know he's a priest of Midian, but we assume that Reuel was, right? That it was Zipporah's father. Ibn Ezra says that this was Zipporah's brother. So I just wanted you to be aware that there is some disagreement among the sages who this guy was, right? So they're disagreeing whether Reuel is the same guy as Jethro, right? So that's kind of interesting that this was her brother, right? So anyway, we can leave it like that for now. We'll go with the traditional that it's her father. Hotenoach, right? The O means his, hoten, his father-in-law. And by the way, feel free to jump in on the comments over there. I'm watching. I've got an eye on the monitor. Kohen, the priest of Midyan. Vayinhag. Okay, so the verb nahag, nun, he, gimel, means to drive, right? Like to drive a herd, right? To drive a flock, okay? Yinhag means he will drive, and yinhag means, it can mean he is driving or he will drive. And the vav, remember, that's our time machine, it swaps it. So, and he drove, we don't translate, hatson, the flock, ahar, after, hamidbar, the wilderness. So this is interesting. He's pushing them beyond this area. So Rashi and other sages, they say that the reason Moshe did this, he was such a good person, he didn't want to take a chance that his flock would accidentally, well, his father-in-law's flock would accidentally eat any kind of field or damage anything belonging to somebody. So he intentionally went all the way out to no man's land, right, where nobody lived there, right? So he's being very careful. This is why he's going out so far, okay? Vayavo, and he came, or he arrived, unto har haelohim. Har is mountain, and Elohim is God, right? So literally this says the mountain of God, or the mountain of the God, ha-Elohim. Horeba. Horeb is a place, and the hay at the end just means towards that place. Kind of like Simon and Garfunkel, I want to be homeward bound, right? Homeward, right? So this is like Horeb-ward, okay? So if I say Jerusalem, it's Yerushalayim. If I want to say towards Jerusalem, I say Yerushalayimah, right? So Jerusalem words, something like that, right? So this is Horeb-ward, right? So the direction towards Horeb. So he's not actually necessarily in Horeb, but he's driving them, he's yinhagging them towards Horeb, right? Any comments or questions? Please make sure to click thumbs up if you like it. Even though the channel is banned, you never know. Maybe someday an Elon Musk will come along and they'll see all the likes that we were supposed to have. That like, you know, I let the Revelation video go out last time. I just left it up for like 2 days, I think. I was curious. Left it public. I don't usually post those, right? And it had 80-something views on my side. That's what it showed on the panel, on the control panel. But 1 like. I'm like, it's that bad, really? There's just 1 like? I think it's the banning shenanigans, you know. So. Anyway, God forbid we be conservative. All right. Let's see. By the way, Moses is writing about this later. At the time, he didn't know that it was the mountain of God, right? He discovers later that it is. This is an Ibn Ezra perspective, right? Of course, he would have been taking sheep to graze there if he thought it was Mount God, right? So later on, he realizes because of his encounter, and so he records it like that. Brendan says, Simon and Garfunkel, huh? You like 60s music? I like Jewish music. They're both Jews, so, you know. A lot of 60s music I don't like, but, you know, I'm partial to Jews. All right. Next page. Oh, looky here. Look at that fire. Oh, nice. We're not there yet. All right. Let's try to get that clearer. That doesn't seem so. Oh, there we go. Boom. The camera heard me and it obeyed. Nice. All right. So Moshe, he's like, All right, so let's go with the narration. Verse 2. Vayera malak Adonai. This verb, it's a bit tricky because it's one of those lamed hay verbs. It's a verb that ends in a hay. The verb is actually resh, aleph, and then the invisible hay. So if you've learned ra'ah, one of the first words you learn, right, then you know that's to see, right? Okay, to see. Now, this is a Nifal form, meaning it's passive, right? So in ancient Hebrew, this would have said something like vayinra, right? Vayinra. The noon would have told you it's reflexive, right? Something is being shown, something is appearing, something is being seen, right? But because the resh can't take a dot, you can't put a dot in the resh, a dagesh, we lengthen the vowel to make this vowel a tseri, a. So vayera, right? If it just said vaya, that would mean and he saw. Vayera means and appeared, right? In other words, literally, and was seen, right? That's how Hebrew says appeared, right? And was seen. Although you can also say was uncovered also, but that's more mystical, like revealed, okay? So here's the subject, a malak. Malak is a messenger or an angel, right? And then we have a proper name, Yod He, Waw He, right? So we'll just say Adonai or HaShem. Now, malak, Adonai, because the last word is a name, right? We have to say the. That's the way it works in construct in Hebrew. And this comic book doesn't have the ta'amim, but if I was showing you in a normal Torah, I could show you the accent marks indicate that this word is closely related to the word that's following, so we know it's construct. So malach Adonai means the angel of the Lord, not an angel of the Lord, okay? It's the. Now that's kind of weird. We know there are many melachim, there are many angels, so why would it say the angel of the Lord? right? That implies there's only one. The reason is, this is what's called a termus technicus, right? It's a title for some kind of being, right? It's tough, and there's arguments among the sages who this is. The Shemot Rabbah, the Midrash Shemot Rabbah says that this is the angel Michael, right? That's who it is. But there's other opinions, right? And as we saw a while back in my normal drash, the triennial drash, later in Exodus, I read to you guys from Nachmanides, where Nachmanides thought that the angel of God, the so-called the angel of God, that this was actually God himself, right? I don't know if those of you who didn't watch that drash live, basically Nachmanides says that when it says malak haelohim in another place, that we shouldn't read it the angel of God, but we should actually read it like in a positive, like an angel, or an angel, comma, God, like saying the angel was God, actually is God, right? And then he goes on. We get into a whole lot of commentary from Nachmanides on that, like trying to figure out who is this angel? Who are you? So, as a Messianic Jewish believer, I believe it's quite clear with the understanding that we get from the apostolic writings that this is Yeshua. Okay? This is Yeshua. Yeshua is calling out to him from the bush. It's very interesting. It starts out saying Malach HaShem, and then later it's just going to say HaShem or Elohim, right? It's speaking with him, right? So I think right now it's Yeshua getting his attention so Moses' eyes don't burn out, right? Like you can't look on the Father and survive. Nobody can survive that kind of glory, right? So, all right, let's continue. So, vayera malach Adonai. So then the angel of the Lord, is how that's usually, just to be hyper literal, appeared elayv. That means unto, and then the vav at the end is him, unto him. Ah, yeah, very good. I wasn't looking at my other monitor. Brenda, you're on fire. She said, is it Yeshua HaMashiach? Yes, it is. Good comment. I believe it is. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Absolutely. And here it says, belabat eish. So a lot of times we translate this word, the bet is in, and laba, many commentators believe this is a defective spelling from the word for lahaba, which means flame, right? So you could interpret this as the flame of eish, of fire, right? So he's calling from the flame of the fire. Although some of the commentators, they actually instead refer to this literally as the heart, in the heart of the fire, right? In the heart of the fire. So Rashi being one of them, he says literally in the heart of the fire. Okay. Ibn Ezra comments on that, saying that, usually we'd have a hay in there, right? For lahava, flame. But he's very adamant that this means heart, because he says you never lose a hay in the middle of the word, right? Only at the end. And typically, I think Ibn Ezra is right about his Hebrew grammar stuff. Although I remember he argues though that yelech is a different verb from halach, because you never lose the hay at the beginning. And I never believed him on that. And then recent grammatical discoveries have shown that he was wrong, right? So, to be fair, we didn't have all the discoveries back then when Ibn Ezra was alive. So take it as you will. Maybe it is flame, or maybe it really, there's something here saying in the heart of the flame, right? And we do see this other places in the Bible, like on some of in the apocalyptic psalms that have some eschatological claims. They say that the mountains will shake and fall into the elayv hayam, the heart of the sea, right? So we do have some kind of precedence in Hebrew scripture where we see heart being used like in the middle, like kind of poetically from the middle. So, okay. Mitok, from toch means middle of. It's from the word tavech. It becomes toch when it's middle of. Tavech means middle, toch means middle of. So from the toch, the middle of, haseneh, the bush. Vaya, maybe I'll point, but here we go. Vaya, see, look at the difference. Vaya is and he looked, or and he saw. See the vowels? Ya. But now look up here. Exact same consonants, right? But here we have yera. See? So we got the vav and the yod and the resh and the aleph. But those vowels change to make it passive versus active, right? So vaya is and he saw. Vayera was and was seen. In other words, appeared, right? The malak HaShem, namely. Okay, so vayar, and he looked. You see him up there looking? He's looking. Vayinhag, and behold, haseneh, the bush, bo'er, was burning. Those of you who have studied modern Hebrew, bo'er means is burning, right? But in biblical Hebrew, there's no time in a participle. That's a participle. It can be anything. It's like a wild card, future, past, present, whatever. So since we've established that he looked, we can say was burning, right? Was burning. Or you could say burned, but we know the process is going on, right? It was burning, ba'esh, in the fire. Ba is in, is the, Aish is fire. Ba'esh, in the fire. V'haseneh, and the bush, or but the bush. See, you got to be flexible with vav. I realized we're going to say it's not consumed, so. But the bush, einenu. Ein, aleph yod nun. This word means are not, is not, was not, etc. Okay? And then the nu at the end, that's a suffix referring back to the haseneh, the bush. Einenu, it was not ukal. So this word, ukal, the root is aleph, kaf, lamed. Achal is to eat. Okay? This is a pu'al verbal form. So that means passive. It's intensive passive, right? So like was not completely eaten up. Okay? Ukal, it was not intensive passive, completely consumed. Right? So maybe it's consumed a little bit. Right? I never thought about that just now looking at the grammar, right? Thinking about the grammar. So I guess that kind of makes sense actually, right? So there's a naturalistic element to it. It is burning. Some of the leaves are on fire, right? That's producing the light, right? So it's not just like an appearance, a hologram of light on the bush. It is burning. It is being consumed. But einenu ukal. It's not intensive passive, completely consumed, not eaten up, right? Most of it is still intact. So that's interesting. I never noticed that before. So thank you guys, because we're doing this. We're kind of stepping through things. I get a chance to see something I hadn't noticed before. Okay. Any comments on that before we move on? Moshe's like, Am I crazy? All right. Vayomer Moshe. Then Moshe said. What did he say? What's he going to say here? He's going to say, Asurana. This is from the verb sur, samech, and then the vav is gone, resh. Sur means to turn. Turn. This is the same verb we see. You might have an interesting gezerah shava when Yeshua HaMashiach. In the Greek it says in John, apostrepso, he turned around to see. When the two disciples of John are calling to him, right? He turns around to see apostrepso. That's Hebrew sur, right? He turned around, right? So asura, the hey at the end is emphatic. So asur means I will turn around, or I'm turning around, right? The hey means let it happen. This is called the cohortative, if you want to Google it, right? So asura, let me turn around, now. This can mean now or please. So if you're talking to God, you're not saying now. No. We say na, meaning please, yeah? Please. Vayera, again we have the verb, resh, aleph, hey, but this time the hey is still there. The first aleph means I will. Vayera, and I will see, or let me see, et we don't translate, right? That's just the object marker. Hamar, look, again, this is kind of a wordplay happening. You see the resh, aleph, hey, so that's to see. But when you put a mem in front of it, it's a sight. Let me see the sight. What sight? Hagadol. So that means the great one. Hazeh, the this one. So he's literally saying, Ve'ere et hamarei hagadol hazeh. Now let me see this great sight. But literally, the sight, the great one, the this one. That's how we talk in biblical Hebrew. Madua. Why, lo, not, yiv'al, consumed, haseneh, the bush. Why is the bush not consumed? Sorry, Moshe. All right. All right, we'll keep his words off for now so we can fit this on the screen. Okay, there we go. All right. Verse 4. Vayar Adonai. So again, we have resh, aleph, and the he is gone to see. So vayar Adonai. So then Adonai noticed or saw. Ki, that, sar, that's that same verb, sur, to turn, right? That sur, that he turned. Lirot, this is the same verb, resh, aleph, he, but the he is gone. This is what we call an infinitive form. So the lamed means to, re'ot is like seeing, right? So to see. So vayar Adonai ki sar lirot, then Adonai saw that he turned, meaning Moshe, to see, to look. Vayikra, so he called elayv unto him. Who called? Elohim. So better to translate. So Elohim, God, called unto him. If it had said lo instead of elayv, that would have meant he summoned him, right? So you see the little nuance difference by which indirect object we use? He called to him mitok, from the middle of haseneh, the bush. Vayomer, and he said, Moshe, Moshe. Now, the sages teach that whenever in the Bible you see somebody's name listed twice in a row like that, that is a hint from the Torah that that is a good person. They're a good person. The good people merit having their name repeated twice. Okay, so Moshe is a tzaddik. He's a righteous person. And here's Moshe. Whoa! I like his face. Whoa! Hi! Looks like he's waving, right? Hi! A little shocked. What's going on over there, Mr. Bush? President Bush talked to him from the bush. No, just kidding. Okay. Vayomer. And he said, Hineni, here am ni, here am I, here am I. Really, it means here am I now. Hine, we oftentimes translate that like behold, right? But it means here and now, both of those things, right? So here I am now. It's very emphatic. You guys still with me? Please make sure to click like if you like what we're doing, huh? Give it a thumbs up. Feel free to write some comments in the chat too if you have comments or questions or issues. Not psychological issues, please. Just issues with the text, maybe. Whoa, okay. He's getting bombarded with text now. Here we go. Vayomer, verse 5. And he said, this is God speaking now, Al tikrav halom. Al. So al means the same thing as lo. It's just backwards, okay? But lo is like a permanent prohibition, like it doesn't quite have the force in English as never, but it's something kind of like that. It's kind of like never, right? This is why in the Aseret Debarot, in the Ten Commandments, it says, Lo tignov, you shall not steal. The idea is like, never. Like, don't ever do it. Don't do it, right? Okay, thanks, Brenda. She says she's still here. Everybody else asleep? We got double the viewers now, but only one comment. That's fine. Al is different. Al is more like a temporary thing, right? If he said, Lo tikrav, karav is to approach, to get near. You might know this word from the word korban, an offering that you bring near. It's the same root, right? You approach Hashem with it to get close to him. So al tikrav, do not approach, do not come near, halom, towards here. This is where Victorian English is a little bit better. We can say it with one word, hither. Right? So for you King James fans, hither. That's what that means. It's towards here. Russian has a word for this. The Russian speakers, syuda. Halom значит сюда. Для всех здесь, которые говорят по-русски. Сюда. Al tikrav, right now, don't approach towards here. Later, when I'm gone, no problem. You come back. In the future, no problem. You can come here. Okay. If you'd said lo, like the Ten Commandments, it means never, ever, ever. Okay, you can't do it. Right? All right. Shal is remove. Ne'alecha. This is your sandal, me'al, from upon, raglecha, your foot. So I got lost looking on the screen versus down on the book. Ki hamakom, ki because, hamakom, the place, asher, where, or which, literally is what that means, which, ata, you, omed, are standing. So, amad, this is to stand. We have lots of words from this, like amudah is a pillar, right? Or we have the amida in the prayer book, the standing prayer. You're supposed to stand during the amida, right? That part of the Shemona Esrei. Yeah. So, all right. So, omed. Oh, if you've been in a Christopher's still there, asleep. Just kidding. He's made some just kidding emoji. Thank you for that. Omed is okay. If you've been in a kind of a traditional synagogue setting, and we've got the ark where the Torahs are, and inside, above, usually in stone, it'll say like Dami lifnei ata omed. Know before whom ata you. Right here we have the ata omed are standing. I like that kind of nice little reverent thing when you're in the synagogue and you say, da from yada, not da like in Russian da. Da, no, from yada, no, be it known. Milifne, from before whom ata you, omed, are standing. Right? Okay. Elayv, upon it, right? So that it refers back to hamakom, the place. Admat kodesh hu. Adama, this is where we get the name Adam, right? One of the proofs that we have that God created the universe with Hebrew. He used Hebrew, right? It's not just a human language; it's divine. Because he names Adam Adam, and he makes a joke about it because he made him from the Adama. I will call him Adam because he's from the Adama, right? The word Adam means like groundy or earthy, right? It's like if we really want to translate Adam's name in English, we'd call him earthy, right? Like soil, he's soily. Hey, Mr. Soil. Hey, soily. Like a coiled person could be coily. You know, like Cubert, the little snake. So, soily, because Adama means dirt, like the ground, the earth, like that, okay? So, Admat Kodesh. Literally, it is ground of holiness, right? So, it is holy ground. Who it is. The who means he. So, literally in Hebrew, this says, Admat Kodesh who? Ground of holiness, it is, or is he, okay? He, because makom is masculine, right? The place. Okay. Interesting that Adama is not. That's feminine, but it's referring back to the makom. Okay. Continuing on, verse 6. Vayomer, and he said, Anochi Elohei Avicha, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. Sorry, you got to read that part all together. Anochi. Brendan says, "Hey, soily," right? Maybe his wife called him that. Anochi, I. By the way, Naomi told me she heard a messianic teacher one time claim that we have these two words for I in Hebrew. We have ani, which is in modern Hebrew and in biblical, and then we have anochi, which is only in biblical. Right? That one's gone. You can kind of see that ani is just a short version of anochi, right? Or the Ashkenazi will say anochi, right? So. Like Ivri Anochi, I'm a Hebrew, la, 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 that song out there on YouTube. So, Anochi, the claim was that Anochi is for God, right? Like it's more formal sort of thing. The Ani is informal. So, I don't know who the guys who said this, so I don't feel bad correcting him like this. That's not true. Just so you know, it's not true. People say Anochi, and they say it in informal settings too, and this is just a synonym. It's just synonym. God talks to himself he refers to himself as Ani in other places in the Torah. Here it's Anochi. Okay? All right. Could be a dialectical issue or something. So Anochi Elohei. I am Elohei Avicha. So Avicha, the Cha is your. Easy for the Tagalog speakers because that's like Ka in Tagalog, right? Like father Ka, your father, right? Avicha. Elohei, well, Elohim is God, but we drop the mem to make it say God of, right? So Anochi Elohei Avicha, I am the God of your fathers. Elohei Avraham, the God of Abraham. Elohei Yitzchak, the God of Yitzchak. Ve'Elohei Yaakov, and the God of Yaakov. Vayaster Moshe panayv. Satar is to hide. And one way you could remember this is in the book of Esther. I just realized in the book of Esther, some say the reason it's called Esther, that the reason the book is named that, is because God is hiding in that book. We don't see the tetragrammaton anywhere in the book of Esther. Yod He, Waw He, right? He's only referred to as God. We don't, or in other titles, we don't get him as. So they say hidden, right? So Esther is like hidden, right? Or I will hide. I am hiding. Esther is really what it means. So satar is to hide. Vayaster Moshe. So Moshe hid panayv, his panim, his face. Ki, because yareh, he was frightened. So don't confuse this with ra'ah. It's yara, not ra'ah. He was frightened. Me, from habit, gazing. El, towards haelohim, the God. So literally that says, he was frightened from gazing toward the God. We got to clean it up in English. He was scared to look upon God, right? That sounds a bit more Englishy. Okay. And we're back. You guys have any comments or questions? Ibn Ezra clarifies on this altikrav, do not approach. He means don't approach the burning bush, right? You can walk around this area, but don't go where the burning bush is. Don't approach that location. And that's where the miracle is actually occurring. The Bechor Shor comments on this part regarding from your feet. For the Hebrew word translated sandals here means gloves unless feet are specific. That's Bechor Shor, so just kind of an interesting thing. And then Hiskuni comes in regarding the holy ground, the Admat Kodesh, that if the divine presence wants or waits at a certain place to reveal itself, the Shekhinah, right, the presence of God to a prophet, that place is always considered holy ground, wherever it is in Scripture. So, and he's got a bunch of references in there that refer to that. But when the divine presence comes to a prophet, actually, that's fine. That's enough. Okay. So we have an interesting question here from Rob Abarbanel. Abarbanel asks, why does God call himself the God of your father, rather than the God of your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Why does God call himself the God of each patriarch individually, rather than simply the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And why does he repeat, coming up in verse 8, land unnecessarily, as in a land flowing with milk and honey, but refer to the region of the Canaanites, rather the land of the Canaanites? So just some questions to keep in mind there from Abarbanel. Okay. How are we on time? Oh, we're doing all right. We can do some more. Now the author got lazy. Look at all that Hebrew. Like, all right, I'm just drawing one picture for all this. You guys deal with it. This is one picture. All right, so there's Mount God, I guess. Okay. Maybe we'll get through these and we'll be done. That's kind of a lot of verses. Usually we don't handle 10, I don't think, in one go. But let's see. Let's see how you guys hold up. All right. Can you guys see it all right? Those of you on the cell phones, it's big enough? I can make it bigger if we need. Now this is God still speaking. Va'ered, this is another lamed hey verb. So that means it ends in a hey. The hey disappeared. So resh dalet hey. Rada means to go down, to descend, or to go down, right? Va'ered, and I have descended, I've come down. Lehatzilo. So this is another pay noon verb. So it starts with a noon. You see the little dot inside the tzadi? That's telling you there was a noon here. The verb is natsal. Natsal, to snatch up, right? To snatch up. But usually interpreted to mean rescue, okay? And the O at the end, this is meaning his people, right? Did I miss something there? Oh my gosh, I think I missed one. Sorry, there's a little bit at the bottom I left off. I thought, wow, really? He's saying him, but he hasn't said who him is. That's how I realized I went too far. All right. Maybe we'll end on this part. This will be better to end. It's not so much to do. You had a kind of a preview of what's to come. Okay. There we go. And then look, he's got his sandals off, holding them so nobody steals them. I like in the Prince of Egypt, he throws them, right? Throws them. I think that makes more sense, like far from the holy place, right? But here he's holding them. Brenda says, could it be to show that they walked separately with God and not that they were his children simply due to genetics? I like that. That's a nice interpretation. Each one chose him, didn't they? Yeah, I think you could actually back that up by saying that we even see Jacob makes a decision, right? He makes a neder, he makes a vow to God, right? He says, if you provide me clothing and you protect me from my brother, right? And, and he basically lays it out for God, then you will be my God, right? So this is a really good point, and you could make a whole theological explanation about what Brenda's sharing there. Really, really good. Because what happens? Every generation, even if you raise your children religious, right? Raise them with the fear of God, in their lives, they're going to reach an age where they must make a decision. They have to decide. They have to decide, like the Jewish singer Robert Zimmerman, known as Bob Dylan, says in one of his songs, you're going to have to save somebody. Save somebody. You may be the devil. You may be the Lord, but you're going to have to save somebody. Right, so you have to choose, right? We have to choose, okay? No matter how you raise your kids, no matter how you were raised, you have to choose. So I think that's a very valid point, Brenda. Yeah, it's not just about genetics. It's about choosing loyalty to the God of Israel, right? And that's how we determine today who is Israel, right? It's not just, yay, I mean, look, I'll be honest. It's cool, right? To find like, wow, you got an ancestor, or your ancestors or whatever, related to Abraham, yay, okay. But that's just kind of a cool factor. That doesn't establish who we are. We are, no matter what our genetics is, we are the sons and daughters of Israel if we choose to be the sons and daughters of Israel. He adopts us, right? Ephesians 2 says, even to the Gentiles, those who are born Gentiles, the Greek says you ethnoi, meaning ethnics, right? I love it. In the Jewish Greek, it says the ethnics. Like how many times I've heard like Americans back home say, oh, I love ethnic food, right? In Jewish Greek, that means I love Goyish food. I love Gentile food. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so yeah, so what are we really, right? We choose. So in Ephesians 2, it says you ethnics were born outside of the diatheke, it says in the Greek, which means britot, the covenants, right? You were outside of the covenants. You were apart from the blessings, etc. But now through the ... suffering of the Messiah, etc., you've been brought into the politeia, it says in the Greek, the politeia Israel, like the body of Israel, right? Some say commonwealth, right? Like this or whatever. I don't like that so much because it's so governmenty. But the point is, why does he say you were apart from the covenants if you're not part of the covenants now, right? And to be part of the covenant is to be a son or daughter of Israel. So exactly right. It's a choice. It's a choice we make. It's all about loyalty, right? And you see this in the case of Naaman. Naaman, the Syrian, who killed Achav. Well, okay, not in the Bible, in our Midrash, he killed Achav, right? But which is good. God wanted Achav dead, right? So when Naaman comes up to the prophet to be healed, right? He gets healed and all this stuff, goes in the Jordan, washes, gets healed. And then he says, look, he tells to Elisha, look, I have this job. I got to take the king into this foreign temple. And when he goes down, I bow down too. But I'm not worshiping, right? This is the point I oftentimes make, that just because it says prostrate down doesn't mean worship, right? You can bow down and not be worshiping, right? It's okay to bow to a king, right, who's not God. You can bow to him, but you don't worship him, right? So he says, it's okay, I'm going to bow down. And what Elisha says, he says, yeah. He didn't say yeah, he says, go in peace. Go in peace, right? What's important is the loyalty to the God of Israel. You have chosen to be loyal to him, and you are now his, right? So, Baruch Hashem. Okay, verse 7. And maybe we'll end with verse 7. I think that's pretty good here on this fourth night of Hanukkah. Verse 7. By the way, you got to celebrate Hanukkah. Don't be like the Hebrew roots guys. Some of those guys, oh, I'm not good. It's not a Torah holiday. It's the only. It's mentioned that Yeshua did it. All right. Okay, in John, Yeshua goes up in the winter. It says Chaimon Ein. It was in the winter time because it was Kislev, the winter month, the 12th month. And what happens? He says that he was there for the Egyon, which is the Hanukkah, for the festival of Hanukkah. In most modern translations, I don't know why they say, the Festival of Lights or the Feast of Dedication. They don't want to put the word Hanukkah in there. Everybody knows what Hanukkah is. Just say Hanukkah, right? It's almost like there's a conspiracy. They don't want people to know that Yeshua is doing Jewish stuff. It's like he's there for Hanukkah. The family went up to see all the beautiful lights in Jerusalem for Hanukkah, so that's why they were there. He was at the portico of Solomon's temple. So, okay, I mean the portico of Solomon in Herod's temple. Okay, he wasn't time traveling. All right, now here we have the bush is talking. Well, HaShem speaking from the bush. Ra'o ra'iti. I taught you guys about this last time. This is an infinitive absolute. Okay. You notice it's the same verb. The second part of it, we changed form. Ra'iti means I saw, right? Ra'iti. It's from resh, aleph, hey, right? The hey's still here in this one. That's the verb to see. Ra'o is the infinitive absolute form. Remember I said like shamor, tishmor. It means definitely. You will definitely tishmor, safeguard, protect, et yom HaShabbat, the Sabbath day, etc. Okay? So this is ra'o ra'iti. So definitely, indeed, ra'iti. I've seen et oni ami. The suffering, the oppression of Ami. Am is people, like we say, Am Yisrael, Chai, Chai, Am Yisrael, Chai, Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Chai. Okay, we won't do that whole long song. So the E at the end means my. So Ami is my people. And for those advanced students here, let me throw you a bone to make sure to keep you guys interested. Does anybody know the verbal root that Am comes from? You won't know this unless you've watched some of my Lekhach learning deep teachings on Psalms, right? Not that I'm deep, but but that the Psalms themselves are deep. Anybody know? I'll give you a sec while I sip my tea. So the verb, you can type while I'm talking, maybe you'll make it, is amam, amam. Amam means to be strong, to be strong. And so the idea is when you would have just a little like a chieftain over a little clan of people, right? And then a clan would go bigger and you have a tribe with many clans, right? And then eventually when it was big enough, it was an am. So the idea comes from amam, to be strong. So this is important. If any of you are working through the Psalms or wisdom literature, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, or Mishlei, Proverbs, or even Eov, Job, any of those very, very old style Hebrew, and the word am will be there sometimes, and it just doesn't make sense that it's people. Try interpreting it as strong instead, and that might help you to unlock some of those more difficult verses. So anyway, that's where people comes from, the root meaning to be strong, amam. So ami, my people, or mighty, like that. Asher hu be-Mitzrayim. We have to make in English are, even though it's not here in Hebrew, who are be in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. Ve'et, and, we don't translate et, tza'akatam. So the word is tza'aka. Tza'aka means a cry, an outcry. And then the mem at the end means there. So there, tza'aka. And by the way, just a little bit of grammar. When you have a word that ends with a hey, like a feminine word, and you want to put a suffix on the end to say like my, your, his, their, that hey is going to change into a tav. All right? There's a historical reason for it. I won't get into all that now. But so tza'akatam means their outcry, their tza'aka. Okay? So if you're having trouble recognizing a word and it feels familiar, try changing that tav to a hey, and then you might get it. You might remember. Shamati, I have heard. Now this is emphasis. Usually we would put the object after the verb. But because God is putting it before the verb, he's emphasizing that he cared about the suffering of our people. He heard it, right? And their outcry, Shamati, I've heard. Shamati, you see? It's affected him. He feels it. He cares about it. He's not like Allah, the God of the Muslims, who is an impersonal God, unaffected by humans. Our God, and we are made dumato, in his likeness, in his duma, not the Russian Duma from Soviet times, but meaning likeness. And that means he has feelings as well. Even though, the Rambam may claim that he doesn't have emotions like people and he doesn't really have love. That's Rambam's opinion, okay? That's not necessarily the full thing. Mipnei, from before, Nogasaiv. Okay, that means in Nagasaki. Just kidding. So Nagas, this is an oppressor, like a taskmaster, something like that. And the vav are his, right? So his oppressors, his taskmasters. Yes, Brenda says, I'm learning that no word is ever wasted in the scriptures. It's true. It's true. Look, I look forward to doing these things with you guys. It used to be like, honestly, sometimes when I teach, I'm a little greedy for my time, and I prefer to I'd rather be learning what I want to learn, right? But I found that when we slow down and we do things like the language lab, or we do the Yomi, or we do something like this, even our triennial cycle that we do now, right? We used to do the yearly cycle like everybody else. Now we do the ancient every 3.5 years. We finish the Torah, right? What it does for me, I notice things. Like tonight I noticed something with you guys that I never noticed before. I never thought about it, because you shift gears and you're looking at every single little word carefully, not like speed reading through or something. And so it really does have its value. There's also a value to going fast, but yeah, I agree. Shalom, Joshua. Brenda says he regretted making man during Noah's time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has regrets. He has regrets. I was happy. I've taught my kahal for a while that I believe that there are some things that God doesn't know, right? That the text seems to indicate that, he wanted to see what man would name the animals, for example, right? This is part of the whole free will equation, right? It doesn't mean anybody can ever get one over on God, because he knows more than every single consciousness in the universe, right? So you're not going to trick him, you're not going to beat him at chess, you're not going to, anything like that. He knows more than everybody else, right? Probably cumulatively even, right? But it seems that there are little pockets of lack in his knowledge, right? Sometimes when free will's involved, and he wants that. I think he wants that. Again, you don't have to believe this. This is my understanding. But I was happy because I was listening to an Orthodox rabbi recently who, I never heard an Orthodox agree with this opinion that I have, that God doesn't know everything. So I thought, oh, interesting. Yeah, listening to him this week. Brenda says he was a husband cheated on in Isaiah when talking about the northern and southern kingdoms. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he becomes angry, right? I mean, he becomes angry. He expresses love. He expresses compassion. Like you said, regret, all those sorts of things. I mean, if we can be angry, how much more so our Creator? If we can have love, how much more so our Creator, etc., etc. Christopher says, my people has the ami context of his people being his possession. Yeah. There are times when God refers to us as segulati, right? Or better than that is my nachal, my inheritance. It's kind of interesting that, pardon me, nachalati, my inheritance. Like God's going to inherit something. So it's kind of interesting that kind of terminology is used. But I think the point is the preciousness of it, right? Not like he's getting something from someone when they die or something. Yeah. Nice. From before there, his oppressors, his taskmasters, afflictors. Ki, because yadati, I know. Et, we don't translate. Machovav. Machov means pain, suffering. And the vav means his, meaning ami, my people, is the his. Joshua says, yeah, I'm Segula, treasured people. Yeah, it's a treasured nation. Yes, exactly. Segula, I gave a whole teaching on this one time before. Segula can actually even be like a hidden treasure that, you might have a wealthy person and they have, certain safes in their house or something, but there might be one particular treasure, like maybe sapphires or something really beautiful that they like to look at again and again and again. Like they can't believe they have it. Maybe it's like a Stradivarius, or maybe you're like a comic book collector or a baseball card collector and it's like a really hard to get card and you have it. Oh, that's not me, by the way. I don't care about baseball, but some people do, right? You're collecting something and you look at it again and again and again, and that's segula. That's the kind of treasured thing that it is, yeah. Although it has different meanings in different contexts. Segula can also be the inheritance of a youth that's being kept in trust by a guardian until he becomes of age, which is also interesting that we might be that, right? That might be referring to us as we're coming of age, and one day we'll be elevated to the level of Bnei Elohim, sons of God. where Yeshua says he will call us brothers, right? And Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, says, don't you know you will judge angels, right? We'll be higher than the angels someday. Right now, just segula. We're like inheritance in waiting, right? In waiting. All right, very nice. So let me see. Okay, that was about 50 minutes I think we did. I think that's a good stopping part too, because the next page you saw, right? This frame over here, it's like one picture for all that. So that's another 15 minutes, 20 minutes at least. So I think we'll stop here. You guys have any other comments or questions you want to discuss about what we learned today? Shalom, Alec. Thank you for coming. It was nice seeing you yesterday at the Hanukkah party. Yeah. Those of you who made it, it was really nice to look at your faces. Christopher says, treasure, difficult to part with. Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's the Bechor Shor comments on why Moshe was scared to look at God's face. Not why he was scared, but something we can learn from it. He says that a student, the Bechor Shor says a student should never look too boldly at his teacher's face, right? Don't get uppity, don't get too arrogant, you know. I remember I had this one student some years back who, pretty good at Hebrew, although not as good as he should have been for studying it like 12 years. He should have been much better, you know. But nevertheless, got kind of arrogant, got kind of uppity, you know. It's like we have to be so careful not to let knowledge puff up, right? Yeshua says, is the student ever greater than the master, right? No. Of course, from a teacher's perspective, we're always very happy when someone rises to a certain level. It's just make sure to check what you think you know versus what you really know. It can be deceiving, right? Just if you surround yourself by people that don't know anything, you suddenly think, wow, I'm a Talmid Chacham. You know, it's like when really, those of us who've been studying for a while, we've really learned, I'm sure many of you can relate, the more you study, the more you really start to realize you don't know anything. I mean, what we know is so small. I mean, I'm always regretting, oh, I wish I had done this when I was younger, or studied that when I was younger, or, you know. I know Dr. Dwayne and I talk about this sometimes, like, oh, man. There's like a point in your learning where you think you know everything, right? But really, that's a super low level. And then you break through it and you realize, oh, like you might be reading the Psalms and understanding, right? And then you learn about Ugaritic or something else, then you, oh my gosh, all these words have other meanings. I didn't even realize it can be, you realize what you didn't know, right? So God keeps us humble with his sacred word. Joshua says, what would be the attitude or response of Israel to be Am Segula? Well, that's a whole drash. It's a nice question, Josh, but that's a whole drash. I mean, to recognize that we are Am Segula, all of us who are sons and daughters of Israel, it affects our identity, right? It affects how concerned we are about what other people think about us or not, right? It affects how we present ourselves. It presents how we control ourselves in certain situations, realizing that we are his treasured nation, we are the inheritance, we are all of that, right? And it can also help with people who slip into depression, I think, you know, to keep focused and understand how precious we truly are before the Creator. Like a lot of people, they get depressed because of personal relationships with people, right? That's the number one cause of depression. It causes this. But to realize the relationship we have with our Father and how precious we are to him, and especially as Messianic believers, guys, you don't realize how lucky we are. How ashrei. I use it in the term not of luck like, you know, lucky cat or something, but like in Psalm 1, ashrei ha'ish, the man who is like lucky, he's blessed, that kind of blessed. To know about the Torah and also about Yeshua. We have like a little small niche that most people never learn about their whole lives. And it's not that we're better than anyone else, but we certainly are fortunate. So we should carry around that feeling of gratitude, right? Every day you're supposed to wake up, right? I'm so grateful before you, O living God, right? I'm glad that I'm alive. I'm glad that I know your Torah. I'm glad that I know your Son. And I'm glad that I get the chance to study Hebrew. Yeah. Christopher says, oh yes, just like when you are looking over the mountain and realize there's so much more to see, right? Yeah, and not to discourage anybody. You can pretty quickly get to a level in Hebrew where you're enjoying yourself. You're reading the narrative, you're understanding, you're not thinking in English, right? It just, don't stop when you get there. You've just like Christopher said, you're almost to the plateau where you're going to see it's not just ahar, a mountain, it's hararim, it's a mountain range. Right? It's a harayel, a giant mountain range. And it's humbling when you realize that stuff. You're like, oh, I thought I knew something. I don't really know much at all. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. You guys have a happy Hanukkah, 4th night over here in the east, 3rd day over in the west. Hope that HaShem will bless your studies. Please make sure to click like if you liked it, and tell people about our channel because it doesn't organically show up in a lot of the searches as it's being shadow banned. So, yeah. We went from growing 111 people per month to growing to like 1 or 2 people per month. Like, overnight. And I realized it was right after I think I was saying something about the Democrats, being like the party of evil or something like that. Or maybe I was talking about Islam. I can't remember. Or maybe it was one Josh. I did both. I bashed Islam, how wicked Muhammad was, and I also talked about the evil Democrats all in one. So that'll do it. That'll take you out. All right. So glad you guys checked in, and I am going to check out now. Shalom, shalom. Be well.